I mean, I like this first fight a lot. I think it's a big step up in competition for one guy, and the other guy is really just trying to hold his place and come back after a losing streak. And that is Pedro Munhoz versus Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, super well known uh, celebrity phenomenon, I guess you could say, because he's one of these new guys, this new wave of guys that he's making all of his money off of Twitch and merchandise, and didn't really want to step up in competition, but eventually, the time came that he had to, and they give him Pedro Munhoz, who's coming off, a loss to Dominic Cruz, a loss to Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo just ripped up his face in that one. That was a fun one. Excuse me. And, other than that, he got a win against Jimmy Rivera, who's no longer in the UFC. Frankie Edgar, split decision loss. Aljamain Sterling, unanimous decision loss. And Sean O'Malley is, in his eyes, undefeated. People that are actually realistic and accepting of reality would say that he has one loss to Chito Vera. But, there's a few things we got to actually talk about here, and that's Pedro Munhoz. He's more of a boxer, likes to kind of get down into the pocket and throw a little bit. But lately he looks like he's a lot slower than these hot guys in the bantamweight division. You have Jose Aldo, who is one of the older dogs up there, but he's still doing it. He still looks great. Just, anytime Pedro Munhoz moved his hands away from his face to try and throw a punch, Jose Aldo was just ripping him up with lightning fast hooks. I don't think Sean O'Malley has the same speed in his hands, but what he does have is creativity and, timing. His timing is incredible. Not a great example, but when you look at his fight against Chris Moutinho, which was, I guess, a year ago now, crazy. Chris Moutinho was a guy that they basically signed off the streets to fight, 2 times in the UFC. He's no longer in the UFC. But they just wanted to give Sean O'Malley a guy to beat the snot out of, and that's what he did. But, you saw it in that fight. You saw it in his fight against Chito, his last one against Julian Paiva. When he gets in there against a guy that wants to throw something a little bit slow, a little bit more looping, he just goes jab to the face. When he's in there with guys that are a little bit quicker, he keeps his distance, uses teep kicks. He's an incredibly creative, great timing, and I'm actually going to roll with Sean O'Malley in this one because, I don't know. Maybe I'll go with Pedro Munhoz because he is plus 200 here. I like the line a lot, and I feel like Sean O'Malley, there is that chance that maybe he gets up to this level of competition and he's not as good as everybody thinks he is because of the competition that he's been lined up against in the past. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm curious to hear what your argument is, and then I'm going to make my decision from there. Tom, what do you think about this one?
I think it's clear cut. I think it's going to be Sean O'Malley. Listen, like Pedro Munhoz, he's taken damage in his career. He's one of his last 5. He's 35, going on 36 years old. He's giving up 7 inches of reach here to a guy who, you said you don't think Sean O'Malley is as quick as what was it?
Jose Aldo.
Jose Aldo. At this point in his career, I think he might be. I mean, and I saw Sean O'Malley talking about how quick he is, and we've seen him be quick. Thank you for backing me up in Fuego. At the end of the day, I think O'Malley, he's much longer, he's much quicker, and we've seen him have power. And it's not necessarily power that if he lands anywhere on you, you're going to go out, but he's got really, really good precision. So because of that, Munhoz really has success when people will stand in the pocket and trade with him, and I don't think that that's what we're going to see from Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley is going to be able to keep his distance, use his long legs, use the teep kick, come in. He has a really interesting way of slowing down the fight and kind of making the fighter that he's going against adapt to what he wants to do. So, I think we're going to see Sean O'Malley maybe with the hands down a little bit after a couple minutes in the round. Once he picks up on what Pedro Munhoz is trying to do, I think he's going to be able to throw some leg kicks, throw some overhand rights, slip out of range, come around. I just think that Sean O'Malley is at this point in Pedro Munhoz's career, levels above. It's going to be a tougher fight. Definitely going to be the toughest fight that O'Malley has had to this point, with the exclusion of Chito Vera. But I just think that O'Malley is not going to allow those leg kicks to get to him if Pedro Munhoz decides to go that way. I think, that's a mistake that he's only going to make once. And at the end of the day, his whole stardom relies on him winning and him, continuing to have these big knockouts. And I think Sean knows that. And if he loses again, and especially to somebody who's not, considered a top tier prospect, I think it's really going to hurt his ability to make and generate revenue outside of the cage. Like all of that Twitch stuff and all the endorsements, that's preceded on the fact that he's going to go in there and have, amazing knockouts. So I think O'Malley knows what he has to go in there and do. Munoz can fade later on. We saw that in the Aldo fight. And O'Malley shows that he can keep it up for a really long time. And we saw that in the Moutinho fight. So for all of those reasons, I think it's going to be a closer fight for Sean O'Malley. But ultimately, I think he's going to get this one done. And I don't think he's going to have too much difficulty with that. Hopefully, I swayed you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I did want to be a little bit of a contrarian. And
take it for plus 200.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad.
That's probably the best that line's going to be, too.
Yeah.
And I think as we get closer, that's only going to inflate. So I recommend getting your picks, your bets in now. If that's where you're. Oh no! If you're going on, if you're on Pedro, wait right up until the end of the fight and then take it then. But.
Yeah, because especially like a lot of the people that wait, they're going to jack that line up by the end of the week. And I really don't think it's like a bad bet, all things considered, because it is such a high jumping competition. But, yeah, I think you're right. Munoz is probably on his way out. And, the decision and the timing of Sean O'Malley's punches just – they give him power. Like, I don't think he necessarily has power, but it's like, you catch a guy when he's moving in right on his chin, the perfect time right on the off button, you're going to put him to sleep, and that's just how it works. So, yeah, I mean, I want it to be a little bit of a contrarian there. Sean O'Malley, he's a guy that like I have very mixed feelings about. Like sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't like him very much. But
I don't like him as a personality, but I think he is an exciting fighter, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're both rolling with Sean O'Malley on that one. How do you think it's going to happen this time around? I think he's going to go to decision with Pedro.
No, I think he's going to finish him. I don't know if it'll be in the first round, probably in like the end of the second, maybe beginning of the third. I think that he's in the first round. He's going to be able to keep his distance. Pedro may come in and try to grapple with him, but I think Sean O'Malley is just going to kind of be wise to that, be able to get out of the way. Maybe there's going to be a couple takedowns, and Sean's going to have to scramble back to his feet. But ultimately, as the fight goes on, I think he's going to start to land more and more of those shots. He's going to use some of those leg kicks to take Pedro away from moving forward, but I was hearing people say that like Sean O'Malley, you got to get him fighting backwards. But like the thing about Chris Moutinho is Chris Moutinho kept moving forward, even though he was getting pieced up. And Sean O'Malley was like, okay, like I'll just like, feint here, hit you with a 1, 2, 3, and then, continue to back up. So like he'll back up, stick and plant, back up, stick, plant, move, get out of the way, back up. Like he can fight moving forward. He can fight moving backwards. And maybe that's a product of Chris Moutinho not being necessarily UFC level competition. But at the end of the day, I just don't see a way that Sean O'Malley drops this one. And if he does, that's really going to drop his stock. So he's got a lot riding on it, and there's more pressure on him than there is on Pedro Munhoz.
Yeah, except for the fact that Pedro Munhoz, he might drop out of the rankings entirely with this one.
Yeah, but Pedro Munhoz doesn't have it's not like he's like, oh yeah, like I'm trying to get a title shot here at 36 years old. Like I know his name's a young Punisher, but he's lost to Dom Cruz, he lost to Jose Aldo, Frankie lost to Frankie Edgar from a year and a half ago. I know it was a split decision, but at the end of the day, like Frankie Edgar is a long ways from his prime and even longer from a title shot. So like Pedro Munhoz is not going to be a champion anywhere in the future in the UFC. So it's not like he's fighting for money and for relevancy at this point.
Right.
So I think, Sean O'Malley, he's got a whole career in front of him. He's got way more to lose.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. So we'll go on with O'Malley then.